ziua! Prieteni, astăzi suntem la al doilea interviu în cadrul Tax&Customs Podcast, un proiect realizat de Camera Americană de Comerț în colaborare cu FINEDU și Agora. Și astăzi îl avem în calitate de invitat pe domnul Rosario de Blasio, care este Înalt Consilier al Uniunii Europene în Republica Moldova pe domeniul vamal și politici fiscale sau de mobilizare a resurselor interne. Rosario, de fapt, are o experiență foarte vastă în domeniul vamal, are peste 20 de ani lucrați în cadrul administrației vamale. În afară de aceasta are o experiență bogată și în tot ceea ce înseamnă Republica Moldova, fiind unul din fondatorii misiunii EUBAM, care avea unul din subiect și Republica Moldova și în afară de aceasta, din anul 2016, ocupând această poziție foarte înaltă. Rosario, îmi pare foarte bine că astăzi suntem aici și putem să discutăm un picuț la un nivel strategic despre ceea ce înseamnă politicile fiscale și vamale. Bine ai venit!
Mersi mult, într-adevăr. Și, în primul rând, eu mersi pentru organizare, pentru... desigur. Well, one of my priority in this country, especially under my current mandate, extensively cover customs, but also, like you mentioned before, domestic revenue mobilization. So, if I go a bit more specific, priorities are as follows: strengthening institutional capacity, and of course, integrity through automation of customs process, also simplification of process to eliminate all those undue factors who are actually delaying potentially the clearance process, but also through financial and non-financial incentive for the staff. This is important as well. Another priority is to enhance VAT and excise duty collection. That's when it comes to strengthening revenue. Through simplification with regard to VAT administration, but also to intervene, let's say, on deduction, not necessarily on increasing on VAT rates. And that's the third priority, I would say, equally important, like the others, and is implementation of the CFTA, the implementation of the association agreement. We are talking here about approximation with the EU acquis in the area of customs and taxation. So the customs code, Union Customs Code, which will allow Moldova in the future to operate within a union. If you go on the taxation, and then we have the VAT directives, the 112, but also the 13 directives, based on the refund mechanism and so on. And of course, excise duty. Here, we are not talking harmonizing with the rates, because you have to know in the European Union we have different rates. So VAT and excise duty are not harmonized, but we do set minimum threshold. The country have not to go below. We have a minimum. We have a minimum VAT standard rate. We have a minimum reduced rate, and we have also a minimum excise duty rate on tobacco, energy, and alcohol. So, as I said, VAT excise duty is not harmonized, but we do set standards in order to have a common rules. We are 27 members. We have anyway common rules, even if we are different. Another priority, this is also very crucial, especially for the Republic of Moldova during this time, crisis time. We know what's happened in our neighbors. This is cross-border cooperation with Romania, especially because you have Moldova's border with the EU, and that's with Romania. And here we are actually referring to coordinated customs control procedures at the border, like under one-stop shop services. For instance, you don't need to stop in Albița when you're exiting Moldova with the cargo. You don't need to stop actually in Leușeni when exiting Moldova with the cargo. You just make one stop in Albița on entry to the EU, and there you are actually served by the customs and the border police from both countries. That's the one-stop shop. Surely this will lead reducing notably queue at the border, simplification, but also increasing security. The principle of many eyes, more than 4 eyes in this case. Yes. And of course, very important as well, that's one also my priority, to help contribute to anti-smuggling policy of the Republic of Moldova. And this is focused more on strengthening administrative and criminal fines in the criminal code and contravention code, but also introduce more monitoring instruments in order to ensure a licit, not an illicit, let's say, trade in tobacco products in the country. Basically, this is my priority, of course, in upcoming years, especially, as everybody knows, the new status in Moldova has. We will talk, I'm sure, on that about today.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, I won't thank you again because I really like this podcast, can I call like that? Yeah, I mean, this type of interaction, interview, very specific topic close to my heart.
Mă bucur foarte mult că anume așa primiți această interacțiune care este acum între noi. De fapt, mulțumesc foarte mult că ai trecut în revistă aceste priorități pe care le are un consilier de nivel înalt în ceea ce ține de activitatea sau consilierea autorităților în Republica Moldova, dar vorbeai despre faptul că în Uniunea Europeană sunt 27 de state cu 27 sisteme diferite, fiscale, vamale, care trebuie cumva armonizate. Dacă ar fi să dai o apreciere sistemului fiscal și vamal în Republica Moldova, el este unul mai complicat, mai ușor, mai greu de administrat, mai bine administrat, mai rău administrat decât ceea ce ai văzut tu în alte țări europene, sau este unul totuși care, nu știu, dacă ar fi să-i dai o apreciere, cum ai aprecia sistemul?
This is a very interesting question because, when you are talking about the fiscal or customs system, and if you ask to any citizen in their own country, they say, it's a very tough one. No, it's very complicated in any country. But let's be more, let's say, to have an helicopter view on this. Moldova, with their fiscal and customs system, since the implementation association agreement, made a huge progress. Indeed. When I mention progress in line with the association agreement, this is not because it's a must or because it's an agreement, because there are conditions, there are commitments. No, because those commitments actually helps indeed the business and people, and helps the economy in this country. Because you know very well, the economy is based on customs and tax are cornerstone of an economy, especially if a country is very much involved in external trade, like Moldova. Moldova has huge export capacity, although I must say the balance is still negative because imports twice than export. This is true. So this is why we need to find internal stimulation, because at the very end the VAT, we will talk about that because I'll give some maybe figures, some statistics, and then you will see, we see here the need to stimulate domestic production and therefore consumption. To have a VAT, an increased VAT does not mean an increase of VAT rates, no. In collection, meaning reducing deduction, undue deduction or exemptions, where is in line with the VAT directive, for instance, and also, let's say, to overall, to simplify also the VAT administration. Simplification also would mean an increase in revenue. But anyway, we will talk after about this. I have also an idea. I can make a very short assessment of tax system and also what I think would be needed, especially within the upcoming priority Moldova has, and in the current situation.
Foarte interesant. Eu cred că, într-adevăr, noi numai decât trebuie să ne referim la cele subiecte pe care tu le-ai spus mai devreme. Ceea ce cred eu este inspirat din ceea cu ce ai început răspunsul la această întrebare este faptul că, într-adevăr, noi am semnat un acord de asociere acum 8 ani. În tot acest răstimp s-au făcut foarte multe eforturi de armonizare a legislației naționale cu cea a Uniunii Europene. Desigur că sunt și undeva careva rezerve pe parcurs, poate nu s-a reușit tot. Acum noi vorbim despre, dacă ar fi să vorbim un pic despre aceste rezerve care din punctul tău de vedere sunt cele mai cumva sensibile, importante din punct de vedere fiscal și vamal, care ar fi acelea? Unde crezi tu că noi am mai avea de a ajuns în urmă în sensul dat.
Yes. As I was mentioning before, the progress has been significant, but of course there is a lot of work to be done. And now even more, because when you are talking about candidate status and you think an accession, immediately you have to think, I need to cooperate and to operate within a union of 27 member states, including me, 28, and others to come. We know the Ukraine and so on. Yes, progress has been, and this is also visible through an increase in export capacity. If I'm not mistaken, in the last 7 months, I mean January, July this year, Moldova exported almost $3.2 billion of goods. The import is 6 billion, as I mentioned before. This, if I compare with the previous year, this makes actually around 50%. Increase? Yes, in export. Of course, this is due maybe to the currency, depreciation, but also inflation, everything's increased. The tax are calculated at the valorem. So that's why also the import. Of course. So they are connected, these things, yeah. In the tax area, Moldova, in terms of, let's say, if you're talking about VAT, administration structure, principle, are quite harmonized. But of course, there are other provisions which need to be aligned with VAT directive, the famous 112, especially, again, referring to exemptions, deduction, but also to introduce simplified scheme for SMEs, invoicing, and others. Yeah, I mean, without going now. Progress has been made. If I may say, also within the administration. I mean, the state tax service has been striving to cope with the priority and upcoming priority, the commitment which are in the association agreement. If someone is interested in details, you just open the Annex 6, and that's where I... But basically, this is VAT approximation, excise duty approximation in terms of structure, principle, but also in terms of rate on certain products. As I mentioned before, one of the commitment is to reach the minimum threshold in certain areas, excise on tobacco and energy and alcohol. In customs, I have to tell you, I know very well the customs service in several years, so I can give you, I'm really well positioned to give a really helicopter assessment, if I can say like this. So I have seen the customs services over the years, let's say, switching from a simple collector revenue body to an institution apt to facilitate trade, but of course also to ensure social protection in the country and market surveillance, which is also important. So it's not anymore the customs of many years ago just focus on collecting revenue. Rather, today customs is a component in implementing external trade policy of the Republic of Moldova, and of course it has a huge role in economic development. It has been progress, and let me also mention one in this context, one of the latest achievements, the new customs code, which has been adopted in August 2021, approximated with that of the European Union. We are now assisting our beneficiary, Minister of Finance, Customs Service, in developing, implementing a regulation. You know, you have a code, but if you do not have an implemented regulation, the code will be just nice in your library. So that's a huge assistance we are providing at the moment. And of course, we have to know in the EU development, implementing a regulation, it passed at least 3-4 years. So it's really a huge work, but it's very crucial, especially in light of the new status candidate, which Moldova. We will talk maybe afterwards. I can give you some more what does it really mean for Moldova in terms of taxation and in customs area, looking at this at its status as a candidate for your country.
Rosario, dar lasă-mă să te întreb ceva.
Da.
Iată, noi vorbim despre acest nou cod vamal și despre faptul că el va fi implementat. Din punct de vedere a unui om de afaceri, majoritatea cei care ne privesc pe noi sunt tineri antreprenori sau antreprenori deja care sunt în piață și întrebarea ar fi dacă acest nou cod aduce mai multe avantaje pentru un om care operează în business, aduce dezavantaje sau rămâne mai mult sau mai puțin la fel, doar că se cumva clarifică anumite lucruri. Adică dacă ar fi să dai așa o apreciere, cum ai zice?
I like the question, especially when I know the answer and I'm very secure about the answer. So I feel very confident on this. Surely, I'll tell you why. Since when the code will enter into force, immediately will introduce short-term and mid-term facilitation for business, and I can tell you a few of them now, like abolition of customs fees. I mean, those taxes for customs procedures, they will be abolished. Plus, deferred payment of customs duty. You are not obliged to pay before the customs clearance, like today, basically.
This is nice.
But it will be deferred. What does it mean? This will will boost actually in cash flow for business. They would have opportunity to pay the tax once after even they have sold their goods. You import yourself and you pay your tax. This is another. Reduction of a number of customs procedures. There have been merged 3-4 procedures just in one. So to make the life very simple, a declarant, oh my God, this procedure, it's similar to the other one, but maybe it's not. You know very well if you choose a wrong procedures, you will be subject to fine, contravention, and so on. An important element also of the new customs code. Because new customs code, I mentioned before, being approximated with that of the European Union, the Union Customs Code has transposed important provisions from the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union. Mm-hmm. Coming back to the new Customs Code of the Moldova, what does it mean in simple words? It means that the business will have a possibility to be heard before any unfavorable decision is made by the customs service. That will be written in the law. I mean, there are specific provisions. It's not just a general standard or general saying, or it's not in the first page of any law when they set the general principle, but at the very end you don't know never how this is regulated. No. In this case, it will be well regulated. There is even a chapter, if I'm not mistaken, it's called the right to be heard. Mm-hmm. And there it's explained all the process. As I mentioned before, the attention on fundamental right of a people, business, whoever, is respected. So, yes, they will have also possibility, we call, I will say also Romania is called vamale centralizzata or centralized customs clearance. Mm-hmm. In other simple words means an operator can lodge a declaration in Kavsheni while his cargo is in Otaci or is in Leusheni. It doesn't matter. It does not need to be custom declaration and goods together at the same place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of course, the new code I mentioned provide more simplification and more, I don't want to now list them, but also compliance. Mm-hmm. So it's also required higher standards in terms of compliance. But as I mentioned before, the customs service is not a body who's chasing the business. When we're talking compliance, it means also will help the business to comply with rules. Exactly. To make it very short, that's called voluntary compliance, and the code is promoting voluntary compliance. So in other simple words, you're a good one, you enjoy more benefit, than the other one which is less good than you. It doesn't mean that the other one is bad. But more good you are, more simplification you enjoy. But that's normal because you are a trustworthy operator. And this will be, I guess, available before the entry of a new customs code. Why? Because we preferred the part which is a new customs code we basically introduce in the current customs code, and I'm talking the mutual recognition of authorized economic operators. I feel to make it simple what I'm saying, who is an authorized economic operator. It's just a trustworthy operator. I have good records in the last 3 years, and he will enjoy, or she, a lot of facilitation. Like you don't need to have a guarantee for certain procedures. You will have lesser control or not at all. You will be monitored but not controlled, so there will be no pressure on those businesses. You will have your preferential lane at the border crossing point, so you have one pista, how you say in Romania, yes, where you will see the mutual recognition authorized economic operator means that this operator, which today in Moldova have the certification we call EAO, authorized economic operator, which is a certification, is an authorization actually, will be recognized in 27 member states. So what does it mean? The Moldovan authorized economic operator will enjoy the same simplification which is enjoying today here in the other 27 member states. So lesser controller here, less control also there. And vice versa. So it will be symmetric, fully. So the 27 members IO, authorized economic operator from 28, they will be also recognized here. Recognized here means, again, the facilitation, the simplification, that's economic integration. So this is how we are working in one single market.
Și pentru asta nu trebuie să fim membri ai Uniunii Europene, asta deja sau se întâmple în anii care vin, adică...
Correct. This is one of the commitment, the association agreement, which Moldova, I must say, has successfully fulfilled. Why? I said successfully fulfilled, not it will fulfill. Why? Because on 26 July, I'm sure I'm correct with the date, the Council of the European Union signed the decision on adopting, let's say, adopting the decision on mutual recognition of authorized economic operator of the European Union and Moldova. That's a success, I guess. This is again one important element of economic integration. Another obligation, which Moldova has already concrete plan on this is the new computerized transit system. In a very simple word, that means Moldova joining the single transport area composed by 27 members of the European Union, not only Serbia, North Macedonia, Turkey, United Kingdom, because United Kingdom former EU members, will remain in the Convention on Common Transit, and of course, also Ukraine. In other words, because it's very nice.
Regiunea CEFTA are și UK, ar fi în afară de țările din Uniunea Europeană.
Exactly. Yes, correct. And what does mean that? Let's say in a very simple word, and for business to understand that they immediately benefit what could be. It means that I can have one export or transit declaration from Palanca until Lisbon without changing. It will be the same. So it will originate, give an example, in Palanca, and when Ukraine will join, it will be in the very, I don't know where, and it will be the same declaration closed in Lisbon, if the cargo is destined for Lisbon. So that means that all information and record will just circulate electronically to 27 member states, but you will not be checked at the borders, of course. Check will be done at destination, if necessary, because the customs service use automated risk management system. So, formerly, if I say old-fashioned customs, they were deciding on human factor, whether to check or not cargo. So now we have automated risk management system based on an algorithm. So it's not that everything is checked. Basically in the EU, and also Moldova is very close to this, let's say, target, which I'm going to say. We can say the physical examination of cargo, it's about 2-3%. Means that every 100 trucks, 3 will be checked, but well. For export, it's even lesser, this percentage. This is physical examination. Let's say, if I have to say physical and documentary examination, let's say everything which is not green channel, which is not non-control, let's say, this in the EU we have around 10 something.
Fair.
Exactly. In Moldova, we had a time when it was 45% this rate, but today we are close to 20. You see, but this is correct. Yeah, this is cumulative. What I'm saying, 20% is not only physical but also documentary. Okay. If we only refer to physical, then this is very close. It's maybe around 5 to 7. It depends. You know, risk analysis run hand in hand with the country evolution, risks in the neighboring country, and so on. So it's very dynamic. It's revised, but the idea is never to increase the selectivity risk level, rather to decrease. So the idea is never to increase checks, because increasing checks, it was proved in the European Union, is not efficient. Consider myself a very lucky guy. Why? Because I went through the experience from when we had the barriers, so when we had customs control with everybody, Austria, because I'm from Italy, so Austria, France, and so on, to non-barriers at all. So I consider myself lucky. This is why maybe I'm here in Moldova. I can use my experience. I can replicate, adjust it to the reality. Of course, you can never make just a copy and paste. It will never work. Just trauma, and that's it. So I can replicate my experience in this country because as I told, I passed through it. And you see, at the very beginning, you know, oh my God, no control. No, that's not possible. The revenue will be at risk. No, actually, it's the other way around. Because 100% control, it means non-control, because you cannot be effective unless you block the economy of
Și nici nu ai atâtea resurse guvernamentale să poți asigura acest 100%
control. So it's totally inefficient.
Da.
If I have to do a parallel here, it's like when you want to fight corruption. I mean, if you chase corrupted officer, you just chase them, and you will be chasing them. There will be no sustainability in your efforts. So chasing, but we have to do something else, preventing. Preventing, you know, I mentioned before at the beginning financial, but also non-financial incentive. I mean.
Rosario, dăm voi să te întreb ceva, iarăși inspirat din ceea ce zici tu. Sună foarte promițător ceea ce spui tu cu AEO, cu regimul ăsta AEO și eu am ținut foarte mult ca tu anume să menționezi că asta o să se întâmple înainte ca Moldova să devină membra Uniunii Europene. Se întâmplă deja, noi avem o serie de agenți economici care sunt autorizați să fie astfel de operatori, respectiv asta o să le deschidă foarte multe uși, să zicem așa, porți, hotare, în sensul în care toată asta să fie mai simplu. De asemenea, tu ai menționat despre acest sistem unic de digital, de transportare, unde tu trebuie să ai o singură declarație care o să te însoțească din momentul în care pornești, pe momentul în care ajungi. Asta înseamnă oare o mișcare a tot ceea ce înseamnă direcția asta vamală spre o digitalizare mai intensă? Înseamnă asta o mișcare spre o linie a 2, în sens că nu atât control la barieră versus control undeva pe cei care se bazează pe risc. Înțeleg eu corect această mișcare sau este cumva diferită în acest sens?
Yes, indeed, you understood very well. You understood very well. Towards digitalization, yes. But I have also to say that the European Union will not just leave Moldova alone. I mean, very recently, I have just an example to say, the Customs Service Moldova has expressed, let's say, readiness for accession. Actually, we are reaching the moment of the signature of the agreement on customs program, 2021-2027. What does it mean? Customs program, until a few years ago, there were only possible the access for member states. And now we have possibility for the Eastern Partnership and, of course, even more for the candidate countries. Yeah? What does it mean in other words? This program will help you in any development that you, for instance, also founding any IT system in which you need to be connected with the European Union systems, because the idea is to communicate. Yes, indeed. The objective is to move to the maximum extent possible from first line control to second line control, because this has been proved most efficient in the European Union. And we, as indicator, I can tell you, economic growth is important and the revenue as well. and less corruption opportunity. So I can continue with listing more of these things. So that's that. So this is why we came at this point. It was totally inefficient. It's a lot of resources, administrative cost for government and for business to have a clearance physically at the post. Because you need infrastructure. If the economy is growing and the export capacity is growing, you need also an infrastructure capacity, to cope with. This means cost for what? When you can make an intelligence control, when you can educate business to be more compliant, at the very end it's more efficient, less cost means also earning.
Absolut de acord aici cu ceea ce ai spus tu mai devreme legat de faptul că se cumva targetează creșterea nivelului de conformare benevolă. Pe de o parte se digitalizează, într-adevăr, să zic așa, pe lângă faptul că devine mai simplu să interacționezi cu organul vamal, devine și mai sigur din punct de vedere a potențialilor riscuri de corupere. Adică tu nu ai cum, având în vedere că sistemele informaționale de obicei sunt gândite anume pentru a exclude acest contact între oameni și...
And now we connect at the your first question when you asked me about the priority, and one of the first I said strengthening institutional capacity and integrity through automation. This is part, of course.
Sună atât de bine. Pare a fi nici nu știu cum să zic, pare a fi un vis care cred că pentru orice agent economic ar fi poate o aspirație care ar considera-o nerealizabilă din punct de vedere asta. Să spunem, te rog, administrația vamală, că vorbim astăzi mai mult despre administrația vamală. Administrația vamală sau efortul pe care îl faceți dumneavoastră ca echipă, tu nemijlocit în cadrul administrației vamale, tu vezi pași concreți făcuți înspre acest deziderat, înspre această lume în care să funcționeze totul exact așa cum ne-ai povestit nou un pic mai devreme?
Surely, one the example which I mentioned is the last adoption. I know not entered yet into force, but it's a huge step ahead. The adoption of new customs code, harmonized with that one of the European Union. But over the past years, as I mentioned before, I've seen huge changing of the customs service, as I mentioned, from just a simple collector revenue body, more open to business, also in terms of communication. They created a consultative committee. These are advisory body where decisions are made afterwards by the director or by the leadership in order to address practical issues. These are wonderful forums because there you discuss answers to practical questions. And these are inefficient. So again, this is also one of the commitment in the association agreement, communication between business and administration, in this case customs. And now I will connect another activity which the HLA mission is currently assisting the customs services in the reorganization of the customs services. Reorganization does not mean only to have a fancy or a nice structure on the website, absolutely. Here the accent has been made thanks to the expert which we have in the team on communication. Customs will have very soon actually, a new communication strategy covering internal, of course, external communication and also new human resource strategy. These are important elements for customs in order to cope also with upcoming priority. Which they will start soon to be relevant, especially when the negotiation on the accession will initiate. It has introduced over the years more simplification in the customs process. We have today an electronic export declaration, 98%. Obviously 2% still decide to use paper.
Ceea ce este ok, adică...
Exactly. Maybe they have, I don't know, maybe 2 export declarations. So, but 98% is a huge indicator and very important. We have 100% e-customs declaration for transit, so no paper. We still have a law for import, around 60%, but as I said, the customs is in continued development, also the informational system, that's important. digitalized, meaning also to have a strong system, staff, motivated staff, because when you're talking the IT, you know very well, these are experts, well paid, and customs service has to, the state, we all have to find a solution to promote this category, because this is important, because digitalization is a key in the economy of the country. We mentioned before how many benefits, also in terms to fight corruption. I mean, I see this much more efficient and valuable than simply chasing them with girofaro, if I can say like this. So, yes, this is... and there is also still, I see also the orientation of the customs to develop more and more. We see a number of activities where they are engaged. In EU programs, activities, twinning, TAIEX. We had 2 years twinning to prepare actually the customs service for the single transport, which I mentioned before, for the new computerized transit system, and also for single window. The legal framework is there, is a new customs code adopted. As I mentioned, now we are assisting to develop the implementing regulation, which is crucial. Yes, briefly, maybe this. But please feel free to ask other questions, maybe.
De fapt, e destul de promițător ceea ce spui tu, că administrația vamală se pregătește și este mai mult sau mai puțin pe calea de a atinge acel obiectiv de care ai vorbit și nu neapărat trebuie să așteptăm ascensiunea la Uniunea Europeană ca multe din chestiile benefice pentru mediul de afaceri deja să fie realizate cu suportul Uniunii Europene. Asta este, desigur, îmbucurător. Eu zic să merg pe ultima întrebare. Îți mulțumesc mult pentru răbdare. De fapt, eram foarte curioasă de la a doua întrebare încă. Noi vorbim despre acordul de asociere care a fost semnat 8 ani în urmă, dar noi deja vorbim despre un alt angajament care o așteaptă pe Republica Moldova în ceea ce urmează. Vorbim despre acest statut de țară membră candidată care implică cu siguranță anumite angajamente suplimentare pe dimensiunea fiscală și vamală. Și eu cred că ar fi foarte interesant celor care urmăresc podcastul nostru să afle la ce să se aștepte. Da, noi tot vorbim că asta este ceva wow, ceva, noi ne dăm seama că este ceva wow, noi mergem spre asta. Din alt punct de vedere, fiecare dată așa tipuri de wow vin cu anumite angajamente. Să înțelegem ce ne așteaptă ca și comunitate de afaceri.
Okay. First of all, Moldova, in order to start negotiation for the accession, that's what there are 3 areas which they need to be addressed at first. This is justice, corruption, money laundering. I mean, you can see also on the website of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if I'm not mistaken, they should be still available. There are 9 recommendations given by the European Commission to start the negotiation, and those are the areas. And then I'm sure we start immediately customs union and taxation. Why? You can imagine to eliminate barriers, you need to make an union. So you know very well, if you look at the history, even World War II and so on, steel and coal, customs unites country, but customs can also divide country. So I'm sure after address the issues we know all, justice, corruption and money laundering issues, amongst the first will be for sure customs union and taxation. What does it mean? I have to tell you, mostly your homework is in the association agreement. Majority is there already. I mean, if you tell me, Rosario, today we have 100% fulfillment association agreement. So what is left for us for the accession? Not much. Okay. If you are talking, I'm only in my sector, I'm saying. Okay. Yeah. Because the new let's say, what's required the accession? Here we have to make reference to the chapter of the EU acquis. And we are talking 2 chapters here. One is the customs union, another is taxation. What the customs union covers? What does it mean? What does it mean? You would ask me, Rosario, what does it mean to approximate to the acquis of customs union? To implement union customs code?
Done. Check.
Yes, we are assisting in development and implement the regulation, but to have to adhere to the Convention on Common Transit, the legal framework, exactly. To have an IPR regulation in line with those EU and also sistemul lucru. We are also actually much more than sistemul lucru, much more than ongoing. The regulation is approximated. There are few things which have been addressed with the new customs code, but they are not critical. Protection of market surveillance, society, and customs duty reliefs, and so on. And of course, more important, as I mentioned before, the provision transposed from the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU. I'm repeating, this is very important. If you want to keep good trend as an exporting country, especially towards the EU, which Moldova 2/3 of all export goes to the European Union, even more now, because some of the market has been reoriented, especially the all export formerly to Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus have been the market. I mean, Moldovans, they would anyway sell, they need to sell, they find other, so this means a lot. So to keep this trend, you should have a proper business climate. Business climate. What we have discussed today until now, it will build a favorable business climate for Moldova. So that means they are key with the customs union because, and there will be for sure additional provision to the homework, which is an association agreement, to enable Moldova to operate within an union. Because you will go to Iași, you will not recognize. You will go to Bucharest and you say, but where was the customs control? Nobody stopped me. Free movement of goods. Schengen is something different. But no goods. You don't need to think, oh my God, I bought some nice stuff in Iași to the mall. Now I have to face customs. They will charge me. No, they will not look at you. Because it's one union. It's one market. No matter. I bought in Italy, I bring to Moldova. That's what that means. And to do so, that's what I told you about customs union. But then you should, in the other area of the key taxation, there are commitments as well. Also, partially, it is an association agreement, but there are some things more when it comes to accession. Why? Because we cannot talk anymore that Moldova exports to Romania. Moldova selling goods to Romania. Moldova buy goods from Romania. Moldova will not import anymore from Romania because it's an union. But that means the VAT will be paid in case of an export from Moldova to Romania, will be paid in Romania. So that means the whole Moldova will be treated like an export, but you cannot call export because it's an union. It's like you sell goods from Chișinău to Belz. But all those operations which Moldova will sell to the other, today 27 member states, this will be not taxable operation. But to do so, you need also instrument to ensure that the VAT is paid in one of the two countries. Of course, as I mentioned before, the VAT is not harmonized. That's why we have those mechanisms, which are some specific EU directives focusing on mutual administrative cooperation to avoid tax evasion in the trade between member states, intracomunitary, we call it.
Dar eu cred că și codul fiscal a preluat unele din prevederile care sunt acolo, cel puțin știu că așa se discuta, ca să fie și în codul fiscal.
That's true. This is actually what I mentioned before. The current tax code, some provision of the current customs code have been actually already aligned with the VAT in terms of structure, in terms of principle. As I mentioned before, work remains to be done. Exemption, introduce more simplified scheme, VAT simplified scheme for business, SME.
La import, de exemplu.
Exact.
Da,
exact,
de acord,
exact.
de acord. Bine, Rosario, eu cred că dacă și cei care ne ascultă ar avea foarte multă plăcere să asculte mai departe ceea ce avem noi a zice pe dimensiunea dată. Vreau să-mi promiți că revii la noi în emisie atunci când...
Mare drag.
Ce bine! Atunci când o să fim mai aproape de finalizarea procesului de aprobare a cadrului ăsta normativ de aplicare a Codului Vamal, cred că toți cei care ne ascultă o să le fie foarte interesant să aflăm un pic mai mult despre acele proceduri deja mai în detaliu a modului cum ele funcționează.
Surely, we can even select some, let's say, thematic might be interest for the business.
De acord.
Especially.
Atunci noi avem promisiunea că mai revii la noi și, dragi colegi, dragi prieteni, aș vrea să-i mulțumesc lui Rosario pentru deschidere și pentru acel optimism fiscal și vamal, să zic așa, care ne l-a transmis prin ceea ce ne-a spus astăzi aici, spre ce de fapt noi aspirăm prin acel statut pe care îl avem noi. Noi vă așteptăm cu mare drag la următoarele emisiuni. Aveți grijă de voi, acesta este Tax&Customs Podcast și el este realizat de Camera Americană de Comerț în colaborare cu Finedu și în minunatul studio Agora. La revedere!